to order at 6 p.m. Parker, can you provide information on how to participate and comment?
Hey, how are you?
It's great. Glad to see everybody. Yeah.
Yes. Information on participating in this meeting and providing public comment and including them remotely by Zoom or telephone is available on this meeting's agenda, which is online at isearchmonterey.org. And for remote commenters, you will be muted until it is your turn to speak, and the time on screen is accurate for your time remaining to speak. And for in-person attendees, we do ask to please keep your phones muted and any side conversations to a minimum, just to prevent any audio interference with the meeting. So thank you all for participating in your local city government.
Parker, can you take roll call, please?
Yes. Aguajita Oaks.
Present.
Thank you. Alta Mesa.
Present.
Casanova Oak Knoll.
Here.
Deer Flats. Del Monte Beach.
Here.
Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande.
Here.
Downtown.
Here.
Fisherman Flats.
Here.
Glenwood.
Here.
Monterey Vista.
Here.
New Monterey.
Here.
Oak Grove. We do note that committee member Luce Adam is online. However, she was not able to provide her address beforehand, so she will not be able to participate as a NCIP committee member. Old Town.
Here.
Thank you. Skyline.
Good evening.
And Villa Del Monte.
Here.
Thank you. And we have quorum.
Okay, so we'll start off by calling for general public comments. So these would be any public comments on matters not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the NCIP. Is there anyone in the audience here who'd like to make a comment? I see one hand, two hands, 3, 4. If you guys could stand up and maybe line to the side, that would be helpful. I think there's 4.
Should. And it should be only items not on the agenda.
Items not on the agenda. Okay. So we have 3 people in the library. Anyone online?
We have none on.
No. There's one hand raised online.
Okay, so we'll do 3 minutes each. If you'd like to step up and
Later.
turn the microphone on.
Yeah. Oh, okay, push. Yeah. Okay, how's that? Yeah. Have some handouts when I'm through. I'd like to give to you as well. You hear okay? Yeah.
I think undergrounding is on the agenda.
It is. Undergrounding is on the
It
agenda.
is. For the funds that to be de-appropriated?
No, that part is not.
That's what I'm speaking of.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So my name is Ray Myers. I'm the chairperson for Monterey Undergrounding. We were founded in 2018, which was the same year of the tragic Paradise Fire, which caused by a PG&E J-hook on an overhead power line. The ensuing fire burned 153,000 acres and destroyed the town of Paradise and 18,000 structures, took 85 lives. At the time, Monterey was in the middle of renewing Measure S sales tax initiative to complete the road repairs, and a group of us, led by Gene Rash, pushed for a policy to install conduit underground when each road was reconstructed, therefore saving considerable costs of digging up the roads later when underground funding was available. Unfortunately, that effort for dig once policy of Monterey is still an issue we need to take on. But early in the process, we learned that NCIP had funded a project before for undergrounding at Del Monte Beach. We learned how a truly creative team of neighborhood volunteers were successful at getting all the utilities safely placed underground. NCIP and undergrounding are once again working together with the currently approved $2.25 million that's prioritized towards a city underground project on Fremont Street. This project was started back in 2017 when Monterey had not utilized many years of credits from a state tariff program designed to underground utilities. The Rule 20 program credits have been discontinued since then and no more issued. But Monterey has accrued $4.7 million of credits. But since Fremont Street project is active, but it's not proceeding at the moment, Monterey was eligible to use the credits, but was near the end of the line with other cities. However, once PG&E established all the final bids or agreements and other designs, the city of Monterey would have to come up with available money to fund the difference between the new estimates and the available credits. So as of just yesterday, this dynamic has changed. PG&E has agreed to move Monterey to the front of the line in the process. This means NCIP money that is already approved for undergrounding must be available and should not be considered for defunding. I provided each committee member, I'm going to give you at the end here, a copy of the 28 process and where we stand now, moving into design and engineering stage in 2026, which is the stage right before construction. I urge this committee to consider the consequences of losing 6 years in line with PG&E and the risk of forfeiting 4.7 million just to satisfy 1 year of continual structural budget deficits. The people of Monterey deserve.
Thank you, Ray. That is your time.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So, I agree with what Ray had said, but I'd like to expand the scope of that by encouraging members of the public, whether you're here or on the Zoom call, to please contact your city council members and the mayor to ask them to please rescind their previous direction to the NIP committee, which is to look at trying to deappropriate $3 to $4 million worth of currently funded projects. I think that's going to cause this committee to go through an unnecessary amount of work. I think that the preferable way to deal with the budget deficit, if they absolutely need NIP money, would be to take it out of the FY27 budget rather than to look in back years and try to take money out of that. So if any of you agree with that, you can contact your neighborhood associations, ask them to get the word around. I'm not sure what the timing of the city council meetings will be vis-a-vis the NIP committee meetings. I know you're going to discuss that later on tonight, the timing of future meetings. So perhaps you might want to put that in your calculus to postpone your meetings as much as you can to wait to see if you hear back from the council to change those directions to you. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Gina Sessions, speaking as a resident of Monterey. In alignment with the last speaker, I'm presenting some general themes that might come up in conversation with the current plan that the NCIP has for finding this $3 to $4 million. So this is a hypothetical from my perspective. Our San Bernabé project is potentially on the cutting block again this year. Really? Again? Why? The city is experiencing a $10 million deficit that needs to be addressed. You might have received a survey from them looking at a longer term solution. But there's a near-term hole in the budget. So NCIP is being asked to find $3 to $4 million to help fill the gap. The commission will be deciding which projects to present to the council for cutting soon. So what will happen to the NCIP projects that are getting cut? Well, the term is used as being frozen, but it's frozen without funding. So in honesty, there's no clear plan for refunding. So will the work of NCIP continue? Well, yes. In fact, the NCIP is currently voting on funding new projects for the 25-26 budget year with approximately $6 million in that budget to fund new projects. Why is NCIP moving forward with funding new projects if the funding is being cut for existing projects? Why not just not fund new projects? I don't know. I wish I could tell you. The NCIP made a straw vote at a council meeting on 4 options, and the majority of the members present chose to cut funding from the existing project portfolio rather than skipping a year of funding. What was the reason they thought that would be preferable? Well, there was really no clear reason, either then or in later discussion, for this rationale. They just are moving forward with the solution. Did they review each option openly in a public meeting to obtain community input? I don't recall a clearly designed meeting to review each of the 4 options in depth and get input. But I might have missed something, honestly. I'm concerned that this is the legacy that will be left with the current actions of NCIP. NCIP risks the appearance of exhibiting lack of transparency and perhaps even more problematic, a lack of well-considered strategies for meeting emergent community needs and addressing their own project portfolio. I hope that in future meetings, NCIP will invest in open discussions with the community about potential remedies before embarking upon a voting process that has questionable relevance to the projects that have been delayed and previously cut because of systemic problems with the NCIP formula for operation. Thank you.
Hoping you remember me, Karen Brown from the New Monterey Neighborhood Association and neighborhood. I've been working with Rudy Rosales, past chairman of Ocean, Ohlone Costanoa and Esalen Nation, and Philip Laverty, the tribal historian, to honor the Native American families and their ancestors who lived in the 1950s on Dutra Street and were kicked out by our representatives. The first time I addressed this group, I spent most of my 3 minutes describing this mini amphitheater, a storytelling circle made out of stones and a little stage out of stones and a rehab of a portion of Hartnell Creek and ethnobotanical and historical sites. Last time, I suggested more reasons for funding this park. Not only is it the ethical thing to do, this is downtown 13. I'm sorry, I didn't say that. So I suggested more reasons for funding it, practical, strategic reasons in light of the City Council's interest and a beautiful connection to the initial park building days of NCIP. This time I want to respond to some concerns that were brought up, cost, upkeep, and people without homes. Research shows that when a vacant lot or piece of urban wild is turned into a community area or park, it stays cleaner and less populated by homeless people who usually prefer to camp in a secluded and more sheltered spot. Also, this park will be exposed to traffic as well as police and fire eyes. Perhaps most importantly, parks are more likely to be considered part of the community, a source of pride, than a vacant lot is. Hence, the community, both residents and the temporarily unhoused, care for it. Community pride reduces the need. But yes, some cleaning and gardening will be required on an ongoing basis. However, there are community organizations who help to care for Monterey's gardens. I will be happy to work with involving them and local Indigenous people and friends of Indigenous people. Finally, the initial cost. This proposal is just for one segment of the creek and for the laying of stones, not a structure. It has been found by other cities that the return on investment for reclaiming vacant lots is actually very positive. One reason is that they talk about the social results, that return on investment. This lot is next to the library, so the phrase neighborhood residents that will have the social
That's your time.
means our whole city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's one online. Bonnie, you should be able to speak.
I think that I'm speaking later to something on the agenda, so I'll keep my hand up unless you want me to go now.
Well, if it's on the agenda, you can drop your hand now and raise it when we get to that item.
Yeah, sorry, I'll do that. Thanks.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close general public comments and move on to informational reports and staff comments. So I'll hand it off to city staff.
Yes, so we don't have any formal presentation for staff comments, but I will point out for everyone to keep an eye out for next week's agenda. And we'll have an item from the finance department presenting on closing out the contingency and ending balance account. So that will be an item presentation on next week's agenda. And next week is voting night. That's all I have.
Okay, so we'll move on to NCIP informational reports. I do not have any reports as chair. So that will bring us to the first public appearance item, NCIP committee second review of projects, second half of neighborhoods, New Monterey through multi-neighborhood. I'll hand it off to Reggie at this time.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Let me give me a second so I can pull up the presentation. Sorry. Okay. So tonight we're going to do the second review of the second half of projects from New Monterey through the multi-neighborhood projects. Just to recap briefly, we received 73 nominations this cycle for projects by the July 30th deadline. In the last several meetings and in between meetings, we've reviewed and we've had withdrawals and combining of projects totaling 19 projects, which leaves us at this point with 54 projects. And again, voting night is on December 17th. The first half, there's 24 projects which we've reviewed. And tonight we'll review the remaining 30 projects with 10 in New Monterey, 2 in Oak Grove, 2 in Old Town, 1 in Skyline, and 15 multi-neighborhood projects. So to start with New Monterey, we have New Monterey 01, which is the reconstruction of a stairway and walking path on Irving Avenue, right of way between Parcel Street and Linden Street. New Monterey 03, noise reduction, quiet residential area zone, these types of signs. Sorry, and this would be I consider a low complexity project with roughly $5,000 cost. And to go back, I'm sorry, I didn't comment on complexity and price on the New Monterey 01. This one would be medium complexity, somewhere in the range of $80,000. New Monterey 04, Hilltop Park Center, renovations phase 2. We're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of another $1 million. And again, a high complexity project. Again, this would be for things like keeping the facility open while working. And just like recently we've identified some hazardous materials at the facility, including lead-based paint and asbestos material, which we're currently working on containing the friable asbestos material. New Monterey 05, the installation of a sidewalk at the 499 Drake Avenue. This is pretty straightforward project, somewhere in $75,000. Repair of the 800 block Pine Street sidewalk. A New Monterey 06, low complexity, budgeted $20,000 for this. New Monterey 07, a new public restroom on Cannery Row. High complexity for various reasons, including identifying an appropriate location, water rights, and other issues. $250,000 estimate. New Monterey 08, Lighthouse Curve, historic preservation and road improvement, high complexity project. And this is one of these projects where we've recently gotten some new information, or at least new to me. In the last week, it's been brought to my attention that the Army Corps of Engineers is working with the Army and other federal agencies to address this area. And it's my understanding that they have design in progress. So at this point, there's going to be more information brought to City Council on this project, I think, in the next December 16th meeting. So which luckily for us will be before voting night. So there'll be some more information about this project. New Monterey 09, Schulte Park Center facility improvements, medium complexity, $250,000 estimate. New Monterey 10, phase 2 of the 500 Oak Street widening and sidewalk improvement project, looking at the estimated budget, 1.5 million. Hilltop Park Center art mural upgrade and expansion, medium complexity, $75,000 estimate. And that's the New Monterey projects. So I will pause if nothing to add. Okay. So we'll move on to Oak Grove. There's 2 Oak Grove projects. Oak Grove 01 is the installation of a raised crosswalk at the Recreation Trail crossing at Park Avenue. Medium complexity estimate of 250,000. Oak Grove 03, the installation of a community art project or mural plus some sidewalk improvements at the Highway 1 underpass at Sloat Avenue. High complexity project, $550,000 estimate. Old Town, 2 nominated projects. Old Town 01, to replace wooden stairs and pathway improvements at the north end of Van Buren Street right away. Medium complexity project, estimate of $80,000. Old Town 02, Colton Hall Old Jail Site drainage improvements, other necessary weatherproofing for the buildings. And here in these photos, you're seeing some of the impacts of just weathering, moisture, degrading the stones. This would be a high complexity project, an estimate of $350,000. There's recently been some questions about how does this pair with the existing repointing project. So this would be in tandem with the repointing. There's also, issues looking at replastering portions of Colton Hall, just because the stone is incredibly soft, and when it gets wet, it tends to crack and fracture and even slough off, which is how we get the rounded edges that you're seeing in the photos. So there's more work to be done at Colton Hall, on the Colton Hall campus. And then Skyline, there's 1 nominated project. Oh, I'm sorry, let me go back. Did the Old Town representative have anything to add to the 2 projects?
Obviously, the steps, the Van Buren steps, they are used and they do need attention. And I was just talking to Tom, and we both agree that, hopefully people will be encouraged to use that and get the pedestrian traffic off of the rec trail and use that as pathway. I use them myself. So I think that's a very, very valid project. Pretty low dollar compared to some others. And obviously the Colton Hall jail project is really, really important. One of the things that I'm sorry we didn't list it originally is when we talked about prioritizing projects, historic buildings, these are historic significance. And I was talking to someone, I said, Pacific Grove has their butterflies, Carmel has wine bars and art galleries, and the history is here. So I think anytime we can help preserve any of our historic buildings or documents, whatever, I'm referencing the library project. I know it's not here today, the archives, but I think the money is well spent. And I would really hope that everyone agrees. And hopefully the repointing will be part of that and we can fix that. That's been kicking around for a while, repointing.
Yes.
Yes.
No comment.
Yes.
So I do want to just clarify, we're going to have Reggie kind of run through all of the projects, kind of go through them all. And then there will be time for questions and comments afterwards. So we can talk about prioritization.
Okay, Skyline, thank you. There's one project at Skyline neighborhood, Skyline 01 to improve Skyline Drive walkway between Skyline Forest Drive and Veterans Drive. It's a high complexity project. It is estimated at $750,000. And then sorry, Skyline Representative, you have anything to add?
I'm going to pass.
Multi-neighborhood projects. All right, so the Recreation Trail, multi-neighborhood 01, upgrade the pedestrian railing barrier along Lighthouse Curve. This is a high complexity project for numerous reasons. It's in the coastal zone, high traffic area, a rough estimate of $250,000 for that project. Recreation Trail retaining wall repairs and replacement along the Lighthouse Curve in particular. High complex project, $250,000 estimate. We have two projects at the Public Safety Building, multi-neighborhood 03, multi-neighborhood 18. The first one, 03, is to identify some alternatives for replacing the structure at this point. And 18 is to make some interim improvements while doing that analysis. So 03, we're looking at something in the neighborhood of $75,000 to evaluate various alternatives. As we may remember, this was brought to City Council, and to replace the facility, it was price range between $140 and $170 million. To make some temporary interim improvements, including upgrades to the locker room facilities and office facilities, storage and such, that was estimated right now at $500,000. Again, complexity being mainly doing this work and keeping the facility operational. Multi-neighborhood 04, it would be remodeling public restrooms in the city in high use areas, focused at high use areas, high complexity project, estimated budget of $800,000. Multi-neighborhood 05, replace the non-functional and old radar, speed signs, and rapid flashing beacons throughout the city with an estimated price of $175,000. And here's some examples of some of the projects that we've consolidated into this: English Avenue, Glenwood Circle, rapid flashing beacon, and Sloat Avenue radar speed signs. Multi-neighborhood 06, ADA transition plan facility improvements at various facilities, including the sports center, the public library, Schulte Park Center, estimate $300,000. Multi-neighborhood 08 and 15, this would be to do forest management, fuel reduction, this ongoing project, that's a request for $2 million this year. And this money is paired with CAL FIRE funds or grants. Multi-neighborhood 10 and 14 are projects at the Wharf 2. And this is these are both high complexity projects. The first one, multi-neighborhood 10, would be to provide $800,000 in potential grant matching funds for repairs at the facility. And project 14, multi-neighborhood 14, is looking at ways to better utilize the wharf and to make it more sustainable on a financial basis. So those are those two projects. Multi-neighborhood 11 is a community-wide celebration mural of Native American history here in the Monterey Bay Area. Scope includes working with local tribes, trying to find artists and compare and place that in a similar area with the mural, Sarah Landing mural, sorry. Yes. And then multi-neighborhood 12 would be the installation of bike racks at various locations around town, similar to what is currently at the sports center. So those U-shaped, squiggly lined bike racks at locations including Hartnell Professional Center, the Bonifacio Place in Tyler Street, Del Monte Avenue, Figueroa Street, Steinbeck Plaza in Cannery Road, Lighthouse Avenue, and at various places along the recreation trail. Roughly 10,000. We'll see. Multi-neighborhood 16 is additional funding for Fire Station 13 renovations, high complexity project, looking at 400,000 at this point. Monterey, multi-neighborhood 17, undergrounding program, high complexity project, request of $2 million for this cycle. And that's the projects.
Talk about undergrounding a little.
Okay, so at this time, we will call for questions.
Somehow we got muted. We can make that offer. I mean, it wasn't my, it came from a member of the public, the request for the 2 million. I can reach out to them.
Yes, I believe we can discuss that with Parks and talk about having $1 million.
The multi-neighborhood ADA, you mentioned the library, you also mentioned Scholzy Park, but we have separate projects for those that I believe are covering the ADA. Is that correct?
They would in some respects. These were separately submitted projects. So, I mean, at this point, I'd say it's up to the committee to vote on them, and we'll sort it out.
Okay.
So I can answer maybe that. So one of the projects is just looking at doing the ADA for multiple sites.
Okay.
Versus the one like the library submitted, it's other things including ADA.
Right.
So that's kind of the distinction between the two. So one is just focusing on ADA, the other would be larger improvements in that individual facility.
Which may include the ADA.
Exactly, would also include it. Mhm.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions from committee members?
And none others online.
No one online?
No one online.
Great. So at this point, we will call for public comment. So if you're interested in making a public comment, if you can raise your hand. I have 5 in here. Anyone online?
There's 2 online.
We still do 3 minutes, right?
3 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do 3 minutes. If you raised your hand, if you can kind of line up here and we'll get started. First. Oh, yeah, Bob, go first.
My name is Bob Evans, and I'm here on behalf of the Museums and Cultural Arts Commission. Speaking about Old Town number 2, Colton Hall. As you can see, I'm a walking example of the repairs that old things need. And Colton Hall will be 175 years old next year. This particular project is actually part of a process. Back in 1973, they took the plaster off of the front side of the building, front and north side of the building. That exposed the stones and the grouting in between. And the original grouting was soft, so it began to erode. And so back in 2019, project was submitted and approved for 158,000 to begin the repointing process. Actually, there was some repointing done in 1973, and that was done with Portland cement, which is very hard and harder than the stones. So as the Portland cement got damp and expanded, it was cracking the stones. More recently, what's happening is we have hardscape around the building. And so the water comes down and bounces off the hardscape and washes these soft stones. So there's 148,000 left from the original NIP for doing repointing. They're not repointing the whole building. This is to repair the where it needs repointing, and that's especially down low. And the new project is to modify or remove the hardscape up next to the building, and in fact move some of the landscaping away from the building. You're talking about Colton Hall, the hyphen which connects Colton Hall to the jail, and especially on the western side, all of that hardscape funnels the water towards the building where there's no real drainage. And as a result, we're getting a lot of damp damage inside the jail. And so this current project is to take care of removing things around the building so that we don't have the hardscape problems, and to make sure the building stays dry. Not sure what else. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but I think it's really important to get this project done so that when we spend the money to do the actual repointing, the previous 2019 project, you don't waste the money, in effect.
Thank you for your comment.
Right.
Point of order, if we had a question for him, would it just be in the discussions?
It'd be part of the discussion later. Yeah, thank you.
Hello again. I'd like to speak a little bit more about the project that's coming up that's related now to undergrounding, in addition to the defunding. Basically, when we got together in the Monterey undergrounding and decided we want to get involved in using NCIP, it was for funding the program itself of just establishing a citywide program to underground the entire city. What would that take? And we worked for years on it. And we came up with in conjunction with the PG&E guidebook that says, here's the advice of how cities should organize. Here's what you need to do. And so we outlined all of that. We put it forth in an NCIP project. And that's what it originally was. But circumstances, things come up. One, there was an incredible loss of power on Del Monte Avenue, which prompted us to investigate what is going on down there. We lost Monterey, Civic Grove, and Pebble Beach for nearly a week. Well, that's a main artery that's feeding Monterey. We're hoping that this new transformer that they put in downtown is going to alleviate that by allowing them to reroute from a different direction. But that became part of the NCIP project. Let's prioritize Del Monte Avenue. Let's keep not only us, but our other neighbor cities going. And all it took was one tree to knock out 3 cities. So then we put together this program and we said, Del Monte, and let's establish. What is part of establishing a program? It means to put a committee together, it forms a master plan, and then they put together an actual working nuts and bolts program called a conversion plan. And it was all part of that. And then dropped in our lap Fremont Street and Rule 20. The CPUC, they made a decision to end the program and to stop giving credits out. And that program was been the only source for funding undergrounding through the state for cities. Fortunately, Monterey had enormous credits accrued and they were actually actively going. And so we were given this ultimatum that, you know, if you can't put together the difference in the funding, you potentially could lose this money. But it's going to take a long time. Well, they've changed course now and it really becomes imperative. So this next project is to ask for additional funds so we can get to that spot. So we're ready, and we're not going to lose this opportunity because the program is over and all of this money is unthinkable really at this juncture. So we've shifted Monterey undergrounding to prioritizing for get one street done, show how it's done. You know, that's going to include the laterals to the connections as well for the people that own the property there. Time. Thank you.
I just want to reiterate what Ray just said. This undergrounding support, really, we really need it. It's going to make our roadways safer if we can get it done. And this is an opportunity that it's not going to come by again if we don't have the funds to help support that. So I hope that you will really consider the fact that it will help the safety, the reliability, and the aesthetics of our community as a whole. The other thing I wanted to speak on was the steps from Old Town that really do need to be worked on. A lot of the people we move back and forth on those steps, getting back and forth. You can't drive through the Presidio anymore, but you still can walk through Old Town, and Lower Presidio is a wonderful place for people to walk. So I hope you will continue to support getting those steps replaced. Thank you.
I want to also talk about the need for those steps Susie just mentioned in Old Town as a safety component of being able to get through to the museums, to get into other parts of Monterey and when you get down towards getting into Lighthouse and so forth. But also I want to talk about the Old Town, with the undergrounding and Fremont Street. I think it's a real imperative on responsibility to the citizens who've paid for years and years as part of their bill into the fund that goes for that 20A. We are so fortunate to have $2.47 million from PG&E that is there for us if we take advantage and finish it up. It's a program that you get it designed and then it's finished. It would not only be a workable example of how it can be done for future times of doing it, but it would also be increasing the safety when you might have an emergency evacuation. Fremont is a major artery. It's how you feed in from people coming off of a Salinas highway into it or Highway 1. It is so important to so many neighborhoods in how to have a pathway to safely get out of the area should there be a disaster. So I think for many reasons, but mostly the responsibility of being careful of the fact that ratepayers to PG&E have already put in this money. It was set aside. We're one of the few communities that have a project that because it's active, because the money's there, they're allowing it to continue, but only if we do our part. Thanks.
Fly through a number of projects here, starting with NM1, which is the Irving stairs and walk path. That's one of the proposals I placed in. Reggie's photos didn't really show the problem. The stairs that are up at the higher end of the path are at all kinds of wonky, weird angles and cross sloping, and the treads aren't level. And the stairs end before the slope ends. So you step off the last stair and you still got a steep slope. So it's kind of treacherous, and it's a well-used path because It's really what connects the lower part of New Monterey to the upper part without having to walk on David Avenue or Prescott, which are busy streets. Hilltop Center, we've talked about that before. That's an essential facility for us. The 800 block of Pine repairs, some of you might be wondering, well, why don't the residents pay for their sidewalk repairs? Well, the answer to that is that one of the houses is abandoned. It has been abandoned for 15 years or so. The person had living there, the lights are out, place is overgrown. Another one of the houses is a low moderate income person who lives on the street. So there are some economic issues as well as just being able to contact some of the people. Lighthouse curve wall, I'm glad to hear that the Army is willing to step up on that. And I'd be eager to hear what the results from that. I would still say that ties into the stairs on Van Buren Street because I really don't think the sidewalk on Lighthouse is safe. I've witnessed 2 cars hop the curb and actually drive on the sidewalk. And then just the other day, I saw another car carom off the curb, like as if it was about ready to drive on the sidewalk, but didn't. So people need to be able to walk through the lower Presidio. Let's see here, the pedestrian railing upgrades along the rec trail, as I said before, that could be combined with DT1 if you wish to. And MN11, which is a community-wide celebration of local Native American art. Another proposal I put in. When you look at that vis-a-vis downtown 1, I think, as much as I like downtown 1, it's going to be a very expensive project and the maintenance of it's going to be really expensive. So this was my idea of a more practical, economical project to kind of accomplish the same ends. And on the citywide undergrounding, I don't know if you mentioned it, Reggie, but the 3 of us who put in proposals for that have agreed to combine and have just one project. So if you're wondering what happened to the other 2, it's because we've all colluded and decided that there'd be one project instead of 3. And that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you.
And that brings us to 2 online. Bonnie, you should be able to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Adams, and I'm the Executive Director of the Cannery Row Business Association. I spoke in support of the New Monterey Project 07, which is a public restroom on Cannery Row at the last meeting, so I'll be brief. But I just wanted to restate that we originally had applied for the restroom in the 2018-19 cycle, and our project was selected. Then in 2020, it was defunded and then later included in a proposed citywide restroom study, which didn't happen. So the need now has compounded over those years. And with only 2 public restrooms on Cannery Row and 1 which isn't centrally located, the wait time to use these restrooms continues to increase. And as a reminder, we are willing to participate in this project up to $25,000 toward it to demonstrate our commitment and the real need for a restroom on Cannery Row. Thank you very much.
And Donna Gibson, but we'll see. It doesn't seem like Donna, can you speak? Go ahead.
Yep. Can you hear me? Donna's here, but this
Yes.
is her husband, Lee. So,
Okay, Lee, go ahead.
okay. I would like to address the issue of the Oak Street widening. This is a project that's had a fairly long timeline. It's gotten approved multiple times and gone through initial phase and then gotten killed for one reason or another. Obviously, the pandemic had a lot to do with one of them anyhow. You saw a picture in the presentation of what the street looks like, but what was missing from the picture is what happens particularly over the weekends where cars are lining both sides of the street there's enough room for one vehicle to go through unless someone walks out from between the vehicle or opens a door, in which case the door is probably going to get slammed. So this is not that unusual considering that there are a number of narrow streets, but this is an exceptional one from the standpoint that there is a park with a lot of children in it, particularly on the weekends. And as we all know, kids run back and forth, in and out. And one of these days, one of these kids is going to run out between vehicles. And unfortunately, that's going to create an accident. What you see also is that there's limited sidewalks. There's only a little bit of sidewalk on one side of the street. And most of the time, people are walking in the middle of the street, so they have to watch for traffic at the same time. The other problem, of course, is emergency vehicles. We've had instances where we've had emergency vehicles getting called 2 or 3 times in a day. They have a difficulty getting down. If you've only got enough room for a car, you end up with an emergency vehicle that has difficulty navigating the street itself. The fire chief addressed that issue in one of the first NCIP projects that we submitted, or the first time we submitted it. I think that was in 2017 or 18. So it's a known issue with the fire department, and all this creates some pretty significant liability for the city. I don't think anyone wants to see someone get injured because the street is too narrow, and with kids playing in the street, or the emergency vehicle is not able to get down the street. So we think this is a high priority project that has been pushed for many, many years, and we'd like to see it get completed to address these pretty significant safety issues. Thank you.
It's the end of public comment.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public comment and open the discussions for NCIP committee members. To start, do you want to start?
I had a quick undergrounding question. I just want to be clear. So what I think I heard was that we have a $2 million project that was already on the books. We're talking about prioritization, all that at some point. But I think what I heard is that the amount needed for matching needs to be more than that 2 million that the NIP has already funded. But I wanted to be sure that I had understood that.
Yeah, the current.
Go ahead.
Okay. The current need is about 4 million, because at least the last quote, and they're going to be now beginning next year. I guess my understanding is they're going to start designing next year and have a more final quote for us in as early as 2029, when they can theoretically start building, assuming a couple of things like the phone company, those guys work together well. But right now it's about 9 million. And so we have two and a quarter now. And so we're looking for another four something. So we need another 4, of which we have 2.5. So we need about another $2 million. So one idea is that we asked for 2 million this year. I think undergrounding committee asked for 2 million. It's in the project now, but they've also said because of all the other projects going, if people here express more of an interest in going to 1 million, they would go back to 1 million, and then they put it in next year. If they get the 2 million this year, if we vote in 2 million this year, they come back next year.
So I just want to give staff an opportunity to also reply, because it might answer your question.
That's great memory, Hans, on the numbers. So I do have the numbers here. So it's about, the last estimate, as you mentioned, was about 9.86. The PG&E credits are 4.75. We have CIP in the amount of $215,000, and existing NCIP in the amount of 2.25. So right now, as it stands, if the estimate was not to change, which obviously it might change, The delta is 2.65.
So, yeah, so depending on how people feel about the 2 versus 1 versus, all the other projects that are on the table, I think I've been asked to get a little feedback from you for the neighborhood, from the undergrounding committee about whether people are more comfortable on the committee doing 1 million versus 2 million. So I'd be interested to hear what people say.
And the related question I forgot to ask is we had prioritized 2 million for Del Monte because that was a high risk corridor or the impact of power outage there was significant. And the idea was that you're going to fix the power lines that are going to make the biggest difference if they stay safe. How does Fremont rate versus Del Monte?
Fremont is a major place. Del Monte would be, I think, because there's some even higher tension lines there, would significantly be more, could be quite a bit more expensive. But North Fremont was the project that was identified a long time ago and is the project that's in with PG&E. And that's the one where those funds are identified for, is my understanding. Those 4.7.
Go ahead.
So exactly when do you need the funds?
So we would, the earliest we would need them, they do say they would have enough money to do all the design work now. So the very earliest we would need them is in 2029, is my understanding.
So you're short about a little over 2 million.
Yeah.
And you need 2 million by 2029.
Correct.
Okay.
Ms. Daniels, did you have any other?
I might, but I can't find them.
Okay. Okay,
I do have a quick question.
go ahead.
You said that North Fremont was identified as the project. I was just curious, is that choice driven by PG&E or is that something that the undergrounding committee or whoever proposed that? Somebody else proposed it.
You can probably address that better than I can, because I think PG&E initially identified that when North Fremont was being worked on, right? Or that was.
I believe it was prior to that. I believe it was under when Steve Witchery was Public Works Director. What we did is we had some money from Del Monte. Del Monte is going to be a lot more expensive, like you mentioned. That's true. And so what we did is we identified North Fremont as a priority for PG&E. And then so the Rule 28 credits that we have, the 4.75 are specific to North Fremont. And council has approved that.
So I think, that's why the undergrounding committee is kind of, like Ray was saying, it kind of this opportunity fell in our lap. Or fell in their lap. And that's why,
Thank you.
Any other comments? Remember?
Can I change to history and City Hall? I just wanted to understand. I thought I heard that there was still 148 in the repointing budget. And I'm surprised at that because that felt like when it was emergency when it was funded. So I wanted to hear if that was true. And because if there is, some of that should seem to be able to address this need. And then I also kind of a side question, if anybody can answer it. Can we put the plaster back and protect the building better? What's the word on that?
So yes, there is 148 remaining. We used about $10,000 of the original project budget to do various studies. And so at the point we're at now, as the result of the studies was that, yes, we can repoint, but the experts told us that it's actually more important to address the drainage at the facility, at the site than to repoint. So that was one item. So the goal is to use all of the funds, the 350 that for this estimate, plus the remaining 148 for all of the work. So it would be doing the repointing, addressing the drainage, pulling back the hardscape, lots of different things, right? I personally think, and the reports are that we should replaster. I think replastering is a much larger question for the community. Because as it's been presented to me, people feel strongly about the exposed stone look of Colton Hall. So I think that that's a conversation that needs to be had, maybe at the committee, but also at the city council level. And that work is not a part of this project.
Okay, so I did want to make a comment just about the new Monterey projects. So you heard from Tom as well as Lee, who called in about their support of some of the new Monterey projects. I did send out a survey, primarily went out to most of the neighborhood association members. I did also try to post on to capture people not on the email list, and was able to get about 40 respondents back. In terms of prioritization, so the question was to kind of prioritize the list of projects. The top prioritization was Hilltop. So Hilltop was number one. So that's NM04. Number two was the Urban Ave Stairway and Walkway. So that was NM01. And then the third priority was the 800 block Pine Sidewalk. So that was NM06. So those are the ones that got the top three. I don't see anyone else wanting to make a comment. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next item. Second review of NCIP committee project nominations, potential conflicts, and I'll hand that off to Reggie.
And yes, thank you. So this one should be a brief. So based on feedback, Parker had sent out an email request getting property ownership. Based on that, we were able to reduce the number of potential conflicts to what you see in the agenda report for item 3. And we've since forwarded this to city attorney, so that we're in the city attorney review right now, and we requested feedback obviously prior to next week's voting night. And just for everyone's information, again, if you're within the 500 feet, it's pretty much you're not going to be able to vote. Within the 1,000 feet, we're going to get feedback. But what I've heard most recently from city attorney, that they would recommend that you not vote if even in the 1,000 feet, and that you can reach out to them if you have questions. So that's pretty much the presentation. I guess just to summarize the conflicts, it's really focused on Casa Nova Oak Knoll Park, 2 projects within the downtown area, 1 project in New Monterey 10, and Skyline. And then the multi-neighborhood project is all of the various radar speed signs, and it's usually one that falls within proximity of someone's residence. So that's what that one is. So I don't know if there's any questions.
I have a question regarding, for an example, I'm the representative of the alternative from Glenwood, so I will not be voting on the MN05, the radar. Do I leave the room? Is my alternate always stays home? But how is that going to show on my computer? Will it?
So we'll have to talk about that under, I think that's more appropriate, say, for the next agenda item. But yeah, we can address that.
Okay.
Shelley, go ahead.
Obviously, I'm within 1,000 feet of the park, which most of our projects center around. I actually think our park's probably in the middle, so I think any representative, I think almost all the residences are close to 1,000 feet within. As I'm reading it, it says that there is a potential conflict of interest if it will potentially affect the development value, income producing potential, the highest and best use or market value of the property. I cannot even see the park from my house. So
Right, so
city council says that if I'm within 1,000 feet and they say I should not vote, but I don't feel I'm going to have any kind of economic benefit from these projects. I don't think a garbage can in a park or a dog drinking water fountain is going to affect my property value. Am I still allowed to vote, or do I have to go by what's
city attorney? So no, I would, so it's a state law that's driving this, but I would recommend reaching out to the city attorney.
Okay.
Because I think that isn't the basis for this that the person is taking on risk, not that the city is taking on risk.
That's my understanding, yes, because there's the Fair Political Practice Committee, I believe that's what it is. They're the ones that have established the 500-foot, the 1,000-foot requirements or guidance. And yeah, I mean, it's not my call. So I would recommend reaching out to the city attorney.
In the past, we have just stated publicly, just like she did, that they're not going to affect our property in any way. So both of mine is the same thing. But I'll reach out to the attorney, but my property's not going to be affected by what they do in the Estero Center or the bike path.
Yeah, just to clarify, right now we are just taking committee member questions, and then we'll open up to public comment and then more discussion with the committee.
Also, the fuel reduction items that are combined in here, I put for the whole city to have fuel reduction, but it affects all of our neighborhoods. So are we all not going to vote?
Answered that already.
Talk to Cindy.
It involves all of us.
Great. So we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. Anyone here would like to make a public comment? Anyone online?
And no raised hands online.
Right, so we will close public comment and open it up for discussion, NCIP members.
We already did.
We already kind of did that, yeah.
Keep up, will you?
Okay, so then we'll close discussions and then we can move on to the next item, second review of staff recommended new project voting system. So I'll hand it off to Reggie.
Okay, thank you. I think I didn't remind people in time, so I don't see a lot of computers here but so I'll just, well, here, let me share my screen first before I get too far ahead of myself. Sorry. Okay. So what you see here, expand it a little bit, so I made some upgrades based on kind of the feedback that we received at about a month ago when we first presented this. So what I've done here is, so if we walk through the voting example, so you're going to be, you'll be required to enter your neighborhood. So I'll use downtown as an example. I have to enter my name, right? And then I'll press, well, here, just to show you. So if I don't enter anything in this field, right, name is required. So it won't allow me to move forward. So then you enter your name, press next. So then we'll enter into the project voting. So then when you move into project voting, I've broken it out by neighborhood. So here we have Alta Mesa neighborhood projects. There's one project currently in the Alta Mesa neighborhood. You have the project description, the complexity level, the cost estimate. And then I have the form allows for one photo. So I have one photo per project. So one of the questions about how are we going to address voting in conflict projects? So actually, I'll get to that next. But here, so we'll press, so I vote 5 as an example for Alta Mesa for the Lagunita Morada Park. And then we move on to next. So then I'm identifying the projects with conflicts, as you can see. So like if we look here at COK 03, it's a water fountain, install a new water fountain in Casa Nova Oak Knoll Park with a bowl for dogs. Here's an example of one we've done very recently in San Carlos Beach off of the recreation trail. And then we have the, so you could see that there's one representative that has a conflict or potential conflict. So what we can do at this point, I've made it so that it's not mandatory to vote on these projects. So we could just move through here. Say if I was the Casa Nova Oak Knoll representative in this case, I could just vote on this one project and then I could move on to the next one. That being said, there are a couple other options that I've considered. I could make individual ballots, so to speak, so that it would be specific to each person. That is one option. Right, so that's probably, it's either this way where each individual item is not mandatory to vote on, or required, or I can make a specialty individualized ballots. So we can talk about that discussion, but then to move forward, just so we can see how it all plays out. Again, so we have here, so then we're into Del Monte Beach neighborhood projects. Again, so those are broken out based on projects in Del Monte Beach. And then we have downtown projects. Again, same idea. You could vote. So vote on this one, vote on this one. Again, I see I have a conflict here. So I skip that one. I vote on the library. I vote for Old Fisherman Wharf boat. So on, I come down. See, I have a conflict again at El Estero Park Center. I get to vote here on Hartnell Creek Park. I vote there. I can move on. So then I'm at Monterey Vista projects. So there's only one in Monterey Vista neighborhood. So I can vote on that. Hit the next. So then what I've done here at the end, it's just going to ask you to confirm your neighborhood again. So I'm downtown. Confirm your name. Right, and then you would press submit when you're done. So then you have to save your response, right? So so you do that. It's saving. So then I can go in and I can see. I think I'm blocking myself here, but anyway, so I can go in and then I can actually see there's a place where it'll save my, oh, here it is. I think this is where it'll show me the responses, few responses. So we've had, so you can see the responses. We can open up the table again. So this, right, so it just demonstrates, so this is prior. This was on our first November voting. So yeah, I went, so anyway, so I have to check that out, but this is, unless it's, it still looks like it's the last one. So I have to figure that out. But I only built it out for the first half of projects. So check individual. So anyway, I'll have to get back in. So we have a week. I'm gonna work on this a little bit more. And then I'm gonna send out like a test run to everyone here before next Wednesday, just so you can all do it from like the comfort of your home, just to get the feel for it. And that sort of a thing. So when we're doing it in person, it should go. I mean, I have full confidence that this will work. But the feedback that I want to hear from the committee, or I'd like to hear back from the committee, is do we want individual ballots? Do we want to do it with all of the projects on one ballot? So, and to answer the question about what would you do? So if you're conflicted out of voting on a project, you would not vote on that project, right? Because I mean, leaving the room like we've done traditionally when we're raising numbers, obviously doesn't really apply in this situation because you can vote from anywhere if we use this option. So you would have to not vote and not contribute to any of the voting day discussion, right? So you've contributed to discussion up until this point, right? But on voting day, if you're conflicted out, you can't contribute to the discussion and you cannot vote on those projects.
So when I go to push submit at the end, will it throw me back up because I didn't put an answer in there?
No, it will not, because those projects are not required. So as it stands right now, conflicted projects are just not, I've placed them as not required. So if I can go back into the form, let me see here. Let me show you. So there is a way.
Confused.
Yeah.
So no, it won't kick you out. Answer, I need to get to back. I think it's here. So when you're in, okay, we'll use Alta Mesa as an example, right? So when you're building like a voting block here, right, there's the required button. See right here? So if I make it required, and it's on, so you have to vote for every item. Okay, so if you don't, so if its box is required and you don't vote for it, it won't let you move on to the next item. So if it's not required, then you can move on without voting for it.
How are you going to let the alternate vote?
So everyone can get a link, right? So the link
Gets a link.
everyone will get the same link.
Okay.
And you would vote on, so this is why I'm saying we can make personalized. There's not that many conflicts. There really isn't, right?
Right.
But I can make a personalized for those. So like, depending on what city attorney says, this may be a non-issue, but depending on what city attorney says, right? I can make one that for Casanova Oak Knoll specifically, right? That allows the alternate to vote on the projects that the representative is conflicted out of, or downtown or whatever, right? There's one, the COK01 has been withdrawn. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 total projects.
Another idea as well is we will have the spreadsheet with the results and we will know you'll have one that says Kurt. And then when we see the results in that one project, we can gray out all the ones that you'd be excluded from voting. So at the end of it, there's another step that we can take to make sure that nobody voted on a project they're not supposed to vote.
I would put to you, you used to leave the room because you didn't want to have any of the discussions be happening while you're there. We're not doing that anymore. And we're voting all at once. So the whole idea of the way we're voting now is that we're not impacting each other. So probably that leaving the room conversation is okay. I would suggest maybe you want to have a radio button for each neighborhood so that they're spelled the same between the alternate and the primary. So you've got both of them next to each other in the spreadsheet when you go to make sure a neighborhood didn't vote twice. And then that's it. You're just going to check to make sure that when you look at all the neighborhoods that voting that went on per neighborhood, there's only one vote in each project.
Right.
So say it's all in one page and I'm kind of going through and then I kind of miss up the numbers and I happen to like skip voting on one that I'm supposed to vote on. And I don't have a stop because there's not a required, so I can just submit it and accidentally not vote on something. How would that be addressed? Because I know you guys would be able to see it on the spreadsheet. So would that then mean at the end of voting, you would go and see who didn't vote, was supposed to?
We can double check at the end and make sure that there's not anything there that, yeah. I think it would be easy to look at the spreadsheet and see if there's a blank and then make sure that, and I think the point of spelling the neighborhood the same is a good idea. So we can sort it out and there should only in those two rows only be one vote. And if there's one of the votes completely missing, we can bring it up.
Will we vote on each project as a group one by one, or will we do it individually like I just did, you know, however many I hit submit and then I'm done? Does it go that quickly or?
Yeah, it can. So I think part of, so I remember there was a comment, oh, okay, I see, yes, Scott, you did vote. Oh, I see how the table. So yeah, you're right here at the bottom.
I got a 10.
Very nice. Yeah, so you did vote. So we can go in and I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Will we vote on each project as a group one by one?
Okay.
Will we do it like I just did, boom, boom, boom? And
I believe in the comments that I've heard before that we were gonna do vote on project, blah, 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 and then everybody votes. And then vote on the next,
And step through
everybody
it.
votes. I think that's what was talked about.
Which is why I did put them in, I grouped them by neighborhood. So if you, right, so, well, you saw it, right? So when you voted, you could go through, right, and you'll see, right, the Alta Mesa neighborhood projects, and then we can go through and say, now we're on Casa Nova Oak Knoll, right? We can walk through it. I mean, there's different ways I could do it. I could also break it out. So for example, each neighborhood is its own separate survey, for example, right? You could do it in bit by bit. So I mean, it's got some flexibility to it, but since you were the one that voted, I mean, how did you find it?
too quick. I like the traditional way of going project by project that makes us focus and think about it. And we may adjust our votes at the last minute as well.
The neighborhoods, right?
The neighborhood.
Yeah,
It
we
needs
usually
to be
do.
project by
Yeah,
project.
we usually do that.
All right, well, I'll just give you the feedback from city attorney, right, is that you're actually not supposed to influence each other's vote, right?
No, but if there's any discussion before, I mean,
And so we can have discussion on each project.
yeah.
Right, but you can't say, oh, well, I'm gonna see what Kurt's voting.
No
Right?
one's.
Yeah. But I mean, we can, so I mean, I can take that, I'll take that feedback and I'll make it so that, put some more breaks in it, so to speak.
Thanks.
I don't think we need breaks. I think we're talking about the process of sitting.
So I do need to clarify right now, we are just taking questions. I bring this up so often, but we are taking just questions. We do need to receive public comment for the committee can comment. So if you have questions about this process, that's totally fine. But then we need to go to the public comment first.
Any other clarifying questions?
So will the public be invited to come in and present one more time? And how will that work?
So if my memory is correct, generally we just do, right, is it public comment? Like you don't present again on each individual project on voting night, and it's open for public comment. So if there's someone who feels strongly about a project, they can come and speak on that one. And then once public comment is closed, we then go into voting. I mean, is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
That's my memory.
We used to have groupings of comment and voting and comment and voting. Does it sound like this moves so fast that you'll just do one comment period?
We can break it. We can do it in different ways, but again, I just, to answer the question, I think that we could if we wanted to break it into neighborhoods and then receive comments, discussion, vote on the neighborhood, get down that way. We've done it so many different ways in the past 20 years. And so I know that there's, I think, been times where everybody spoke first. I think that something might be lost if we're moving on too quickly. But I think having people be able to comment and then we go on to that neighborhood, maybe have discussion, and then Reggie can open it for voting. That's an idea.
No, I have more of a comment. I guess that's a response to that, so I'll hold off. If any other questions?
You've got one. You have one else? I just want to ask those of us who do surveys and have neighborhood input, can we enter numbers beforehand, before the meeting and kind of prepare ourselves a little bit, or we have
In advance of the meeting?
Yeah.
No. So
and then change?
what? No. So, okay. So that's a great question. So here, let me show you. So there's a couple other options. So under, say, like, I think it's collect responses. No, it's not. It's under settings. So one option, which I will do, right? So here I can start the date and time where we collect responses. So I would lock it until voting starts.
Okay.
So it would not be available
Okay.
for people to input votes prior to the meeting, which I don't even think we could legally do. Right? I think you would be bound to wait till the meeting is called to order, so people provide their public comment, and then you could vote.
Okay, then the only thing I was thinking is after the last vote question, how hard is it to have then maybe one table that comes up with all the lists of projects and all your votes so you can just make sure you got.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, we would need to vet it, right? I mean, just to make sure, but I mean, that's the idea for this, right? I mean, I would say in my mind, that's the number one driver, right? In that this will allow us to, right? This will allow us to, I'm trying to find the project form, right? It's going to allow us to get an Excel spreadsheet and present that, in a relatively, quick, time frame, right? So it's going to give us the results, right? So we see here, right? And it's broken out by day, right? So we can see that actually, so Dennis has also voted, right? So we can see Dennis voted. And, so we have all of the various scores for people, right? So it's all right here. And we can see, right? Downtown 7, right? I voted, Scott voted, but Dennis didn't vote on that one, for example. So we have the results.
I was just thinking that way one could check their answers before they hit the submit button.
No. This is only after you submit.
If there was a.
But you can, so when you're in the survey,
Yeah.
right? When you're in the survey, there is, right? So if we do, so when you're going through this, if you're actually taking the survey, so here on the preview, for example, right? So if you're actually taking the survey, I'll just say, again, downtown. There's a back button, right? So you can go through, I mean, it's like any test you've ever taken, right? So, I mean, if you want to make sure that you filled in all of the answers and you're comfortable with your answers, right? You can say, oh, I forgot to vote on, Casa Nova Oak Knoll 4, or, I think it really should be an 8 or a 4. I don't know, right? You can change it. So you can do all of that before you hit the submit button. Once you hit the submit button. Done. But yeah, you do have the flexibility to move. And again, that depends on, right? So if we break this out by neighborhood, this will be a smaller chunk, right? So we can take them in smaller pieces, which we can do as well. So that's when, I guess, after public comment, maybe if we can get a consensus on how the committee wants to proceed.
Did you have a
Maybe just not a question, but some of its questions. The public library internet, public works just fine. That's what I used. Microsoft's licensing wasn't quite set up on my machine, so that's why my vote came in late. Because I had to make sure that that was there. And it seemed to require the name and neighborhood both on the front end and the back end.
I did. I put that in kind of as a check confirmation.
So if I spell my name differently in the front and back, I'm going to be in trouble.
Can't move neighborhoods.
Okay, any other clarifying questions before we open it up to public comment? None. We'll open it up for public comment. Is anyone present here like to make a comment? I see one hand. Okay, so just one person here. Anyone online? Okay, so we'll do 3 minutes.
So I count 4 of you who've been here for quite some time and you remember the old process. And I wouldn't want to go back to the old process, but what Han said kind of sent a little bit of a shiver up my spine in terms of not going the extreme other direction, which is where you all come into the room with preconceived notions of how you're going to vote, and you've already got your sample ballot all figured out, and you're just kind of going like this, like, oh yeah, yeah, okay. And you're not really listening to the public comment. Being a member of the public, not on staff, I see the other side of the looking glass, so to speak. And more I start to think like public comments are just this annoying thing that has to be done. You know, just let the public chatter and have their 3 minutes and then get them out of our way and let's get on with things. So I hope that isn't the intention of the committee or the staff. I don't think it is. So that's why I would suggest that you do go at the very least neighborhood by neighborhood, if not project by project, because somebody like myself who has multiple projects who's turned in, I get 3 minutes for 6 projects versus a person who has 1 project gets 3 minutes to comment about their 1 project. So from the perspective of a person who's active in this process, which you should be encouraging, that puts us at a disadvantage because we only have 3 minutes to talk to multiple projects. Now, I know that will extend the amount of time you have to be here to do your, for example, the Irving Street stairs. I might want to bring a photo that really shows you what the problem is, since I'm the one who submitted it. And fortunately, I should have submitted a photo with my application that better shows it, but I can bring one by voting night to show you exactly what the problem is. So that's just one example of where you might get new information that may persuade you one way or the other on that project. Same goes true for the Lighthouse Curve project that I talked about. I might be able to show you some evidence of cars having driven on the sidewalk, which is why I think a wall going there is not a bad thing, because I don't think pedestrians should be using that. Just examples of what I'd want to maybe present next week. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment and now open it up for committee discussions. Well, I have a couple of things. So I guess I can see how this would be really helpful in terms of like kind of having it automated and tallying up the votes. But I also feel like something's lost from kind of the process in terms of public participation. In regards to kind of going neighborhood by neighborhood and doing public comment, it kind of disadvantages the people whose neighborhoods alphabetically are much later. So they end up having to stay a lot longer versus people whose neighborhoods are earlier in that order. So I think that's something to think about, not to say we shouldn't do it, but again, just something to think about. And I do believe traditionally we've just had all the public comment in the beginning and then we would just vote. So that's, just kind of what we have done as far as I recall. In terms of like the public participation part of it, I think, if you had submitted a project and you are watching to see how committee members are voting on it in the past, even though, it was analog and raising up a number, but you kind of had a sense of like how like where your project fell based on the numbers. So I felt like the public did get a little bit of a sense of, is this something that's going to be higher up on the list or lower on the list? And then now it just feels like everything's really blind. So like they won't necessarily have that in terms of engaging. And I don't think many people stay anyway for the voting, but I mean, that's even more of a reason not to stay for voting. So in that regards, just having the public comment in the beginning, and then, I think most people end up just leaving because they don't want to stay for the voting and not really see what's happening. So like they're just kind of watching us on our laptops. And then that's it. So I think that's something that's lost. And then I did have a question just in terms of what would be posted online. So would the spreadsheets be online, or like what how would public be able to see kind of like the end results?
Well, I mean, so what we've traditionally done, right, after we've reviewed and vetted the votes, when we did them by hand, then we would release, like on the website, there would be the Excel spreadsheet with the vote totals and the rankings, which we would, we would continue to do that, right? The Excel spreadsheet would be loaded on the website with the vote totals and the ranking. So I don't think that would change. I mean, as I see it, the things that change, you make valid points, but I think at least from the staff perspective, right, the changes were proposed for efficiency and accuracy, especially on the back end, right? Because I remember last year, there was definitely some feeling like, okay, can the data come out sooner? Why is it taking so long? And it's just like, I think last year we voted on a Thursday night, and then we were like dead on Friday, and then by, it took like till whatever, Wednesday or something like that, right, for the data to come out. And I could be completely wrong, but I think this method, the data would be available much sooner, right? Because it's going to be what it is. We're not hand counting. We're not, looking back at the video to see, okay, who voted which way, because, we missed that one. But it is the committee's decision, right? So how we vote, unless I'm wrong, but I believe it is your decision.
So that's really interesting. I like the idea of having the input. In the past, what we actually did in the before times was that the people would speak. We'd have a round of voting. We'd stop. People would actually come up and speak again. And you could actually end up speaking if your project hadn't been approved 2 or 3 times. So the interesting question is, maybe we do allow for breaks between neighborhood, but look at it and say anybody can speak at any time. So if somebody wants to speak to something and go home, they can speak right away. If somebody wants to wait till their neighborhood's about to come out, then they can do it. And so that actually is more public input than we've ever had. I really like the idea of being able to, like we'd be able to see how we were doing. It would be super cool if we had the spreadsheet up. Maybe we can get the dang Googles to flip it so it's a column per neighborhood and the votes go on as they're received. I think the challenge is it wants to submit before it posts to the spreadsheet, but it would be interesting to see if that technology was available. Live spreadsheet, that votes in, it's up, and I think you've got a win-win.
So the only thing with that would be if it's going up as people are submitting it, then you could technically see how people vote. But I don't know if there's a way to like only have it go up once all of the votes are in so that it's not like trickling in.
Screen.
Yeah, like that would be kind of, I don't know. I just feel like if I was like a public member, I would just feel like just watching people on laptops, like, and then you're like, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how they're voting. I don't know how my project's faring against the others. And I do think there's a little bit of excitement in that, especially if you're the one that submitted it and you really care about it versus, you're just kind of like, okay, well, they're on their laptops and I don't really know what's happening. And maybe they'll post it at the end when they're all done voting. And that piece of it, I think is just missing that kind of engagement piece. So I think if there's a way to wait till all the votes were in and then be able to kind of see it, then that would be a little bit more participatory.
So just for my clarification, are we saying on a per project basis? Or are you?
I mean, that would be my preference, but if whatever others, if they want to do neighborhood by neighborhood, whatever, but I mean, I think it would be nice to do it that way.
I think it would be good also for the committee to share what your preferences would be. That way we can then present that to the city attorney to confirm that these public comments can be received in the way that you would like to. Right now, we staff are responding and discussing these things, but all of that needs to be vetted ultimately by that we're following the legal process. So please continue to offer different suggestions and preferences and ideas. Ultimately, we will need to take these ideas to city attorneys before we can just make that determination exactly of how we can go about that.
Can have her.
Yeah, sure. Well, I was going to say, I agree with Shanera, because I know the public, when we flipped those cards, their project, they were counting and they knew. And this way, that goes away. And so I think I agree. We need some way, maybe not project by project, but at least by neighborhood, when we've submitted them, that they show up.
Go ahead, Hans.
I was going to say, how about rather than doing a survey or a questionnaire for every person, just do one for every neighborhood, and then we can submit at the end of every neighborhood, and then we have a new
Right.
that comes up. We have to make a new survey for each neighborhood. Would that work?
Absolutely.
And then you can just hit submit by neighborhood.
Yeah.
The other thing too, if you want to make it more exciting, is still have your survey open. And then if you want to, Reggie can say vote now, you can show a number and that's the same, hopefully, same number you are putting. And now you have the best of both worlds, because really what we used to do before is just really the four of us would be like, who said what? Was it 10? No, 8. No, wait, there's somebody online. What did they put up? And really we felt like there's just a lot of human error. Whereas if you're doing 8 and you're responsible for putting 8, then I feel like we maybe can get the best of both worlds.
Any other? Oh.
Having been through this a few times in the old system, we would have literally projects on the wall and run around and put tags on the projects. And then we'd look and see how many of those projects got enough votes to make a cutoff. And then we'd say, okay, we're going to have another round of voting. Speak to your projects, gerrymander, put your projects out there. And that would be the public discussion or committee discussion about, hey, I want to get my project done too. I don't see that happening in this. I see a vote and done. And isn't that the way we elect people? A vote and done. We don't get to gerrymander and go back in and say, President Trump, we don't like you. The vote's done. I liked the public discourse and the committee discourse that went on in doing multiple sessions. I'm not quite seeing how we can get there from what we're doing, but maybe that's a good thing.
Don't quite understand the last thing you said.
Change is not always bad. The opportunity to speak again about the projects that you want to get through, having not gotten through in the first 3 cycles. That's what we've had happen before. And this will take that dialogue away.
Right. Yeah. So I don't think we can vote multiple times, right? Because I think that was like the guidance from city attorney, right? It was like, that's why we ended up where we are now, right? It's because there was one vote, you get them ranked, and you just go down, and wherever the cutoff is, that is the cutoff. So unfortunately, I think that's, unless you want to get a different interpretation, but I think that's where we are.
I think I was just showing my age.
Oh.
or age in the committee.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You were there.
It's about 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. And Sharon would be bidding on her project.
And so it's actually a question, I think. So I think at this point, the committee members need to bring their own equipment And so the city will have a bunch of extension cords. And maybe you'll need an extension cord to get your equipment to the extension cord. And so I guess maybe the committee members should let the city know if they don't have something to vote on. I'm hearing PC and phone.
Phones do work, right? I think, Scott, you voted on your phone, right? So it is mobile enabled. So if you do have a smartphone, that works.
Yes, any device that can connect to your email, because we'll be sending those links through your email. So whatever device that you have, I can connect to your email.
Yeah, so like a tablet, computer,
Any browser.
anything that has, internet connection.
And if somebody does not have a device, please let us know
Yes.
so we can set you up with one.
And everyone that's attending remotely, we know they have one.
Right.
But I'll just say, keep in mind, we do have to have 8 people physically in the room in order to have quorum, right? So everyone can't stay home. Okay, so to summarize, I feel like I'm hearing preference for neighborhood, vote by neighborhood, and to go through each one individually. That's what I'm hearing.
And maybe look at how you can get it to post. If you can get it to post as people enter or post by
So we
neighborhood.
can get, so what is that? The only thing we would need is like a second screen. So I think we can look into that.
Do you want us to bring cards as well and do both?
It's interesting.
So it's more exciting?
Back up.
I'm okay with it.
I like, that's closer to your point.
Seems like no.
As I said, change might be a good thing.
But definitely vote by neighborhood.
Sounds like it, yeah.
And I think post by neighborhood is probably okay. No neighborhood is so big that you can't wait for 3 projects. I would think.
Okay.
Except for multiple.
In New Monterey.
There'll be. That's the end of the night anyway.
Any other discussion before we move on?
Just buying beer.
I don't think I can do that.
No voting under the influence. All right, so we'll move on to the next item. Discuss and adopt additional NCIP meeting dates for January 2026. And I'll hand that off to Reggie.
Okay, thank you. I do have a very brief presentation here. So give me 1 second to pull that up. Okay, so yes, this goes back to City Council direction to identify prior year projects and prioritize them to come up with the $3 to $4 million in projects to freeze. So as of right now, we've identified that this room that we're in is available on January 14th, January 21st, and January 28th. There's a recommendation, we can do kind of what we've done here, review projects on the 14th and the 21st, allow for public comment, and then allow for voting / prioritization on January 28th. There's 32 projects that would fall into this category of not yet started or inactive. So we could do 16 on the 14th, 16 on the 21st, or we could do all 32 and on both dates, if that allows for more detail and discussion with voting on the 28th. So it's kind of up to the committee how you would like to do that. And if you would like to meet on these 3 dates, or if you feel like you don't need 3 dates, or and just one other point, which again will come back next week with some more detail. We're recommending closing out the contingency and ending balance projects. Those funds will go back into the larger NCIP fund. So that there'll be those discussions. And we'll also have a presentation on the funding that is available in the NCIP fund, both in projects and not committed. So uncommitted funds, project funds, and so on. So you'll have all of that information. And that's the end of my presentation.
Okay, so open it up for committee questions, clarifying questions.
I guess I have a question. So the voting that happens next week is on, I see for us, new ones.
Yes.
So that means in January, we're going to vote on the old one. In our case, we have an old one. It's not really started. So that's a separate.
Right, so the voting in January or the review in January is for prior year projects. So everything that's on the books up through what was voted on and approved in 2024. Okay, and then so for example, the projects we vote on next week won't be considered in this grouping. So, and as I said, there's 32. There's currently, I mean, just right for everyone's reference, there's 72 total projects right now. And 32 of those haven't been started, right, or inactive. So we're looking at I don't know, whatever that percentage is, right? 40 something percent. And I think the fund, so in the details, there's more details in the agenda report, right? Kind of give you a breakdown on the funding available and so on. So those projects not started are a little over 7 million. The inactive projects are 1 million. And then, so that gives you a little over $8 million there. And then the contingency and ending balance, that's 730,000, right? So those are the numbers, but you'll get a little bit finer detail next week.
And then the voting, is it going to be similar to the voting that we are doing next week?
And that would be my recommendation.
But in the sense that based off of the feedback that we would receive, it's by prioritizing which ones you would nominate to defund. So whichever ones it would be almost a reverse voting, that if you have voted for more highly to defund, that means it's going to be on, gosh, how do I describe that?
We can.
Yes.
On
the pros.
We can discuss.
Yeah.
So the higher it scores, I mean, yeah, it's going to be inverse. So the higher it scores, that means it's more likely to be defunded.
Can we do it the other way?
Score it lowly? Sure.
Yeah, it's more.
So like a one would mean it's going to be defunded and means to keep it. So you could do it that way.
Sure. Yes. Okay.
People will get confused. I will get confused.
Okay.
Okay, so I just want to, I need clarification from my brain. We are going through this defunding exercise, even though we came up with another solution because City Council directed us to do it. But do we have any assurances that they're not going to take us up on both of those offers? If we defund, then the 4 million or whatever, the 2 million that we offered up will be off the table. Is that correct?
That is not correct. So City Council gets to decide. So we were tasked to do this exercise in terms of prioritizing these projects that were not yet started. Once we do that, we can also present alternatives that we are recommending, but ultimately City Council decides. We don't really have a control over that.
I guess my concern based on that answer is that they'll take both. And then we're going to be defunding projects and offering up additional money, which may exceed the amount that they requested. And I not real comfortable with that.
That's okay. But we are just taking questions.
Okay.
As always, it's always questions first, which is you did start with a question, but for further discussion, we need to wait for public comment before the discussion continues. Thank you.
There be updated calendar be sent out.
Yes, we can send out an updated calendar because I think only January 21st is on the current calendar, if my memory is correct. So we would, yeah, so based on this discussion and the vote, right? So we would then update the calendar, yes.
Any other clarifying questions? All right, we'll open it up for public comment. Anyone in the public would like to make a comment? I have one. Okay, anyone online?
None online.
Okay, so 3 minutes.
One empty wagon. So I'm troubled by this process. It's not a simple task, as you all know, I'm sure, to just turn the crank counterclockwise instead of clockwise. So these projects were all approved. People like me were all excited, rah, rah, rah. We came in here and we voiced our support for the project back 5 years ago or whenever it was. How are you going to unwind this clock? Are you going to now reach out to those same people, call them up, say, hey, oh, by the way, on January the 14th, we're going to be talking about axing your project. So come back with your dogs and your ponies. So, okay, Scouts Honor, everybody's going to be contacted and invited to come here. Jamie brought up, I think, a good point at the last meeting, which is, so you all show up here on January the 14th and you're going to be looking at projects, these 34 and like, we just approved these other projects, but I really like this old project better than the one we just approved.
Yeah.
So it's a good point. Why wouldn't you be looking at what you just approved? Because you should be looking at them, I think, juxtaposed to one another and then deciding whether one of the ones you just approved is maybe not as worthy as one that's already on the books. I know that sounds like a Alice in Wonderland topsy-turvy thing, but it does make some sense to me to do that. So the other thing is that the January 14th date is going to be fast approaching. I mean, the holidays are here. And I would hope that somebody on the council comes to their senses and says, hey, can we agendize this and see if we can modify our direction to the NIP committee? So if you could possibly push that off another week or so, I think that would be good. Now, I understand it's a far-fetched, probably not going to happen kind of a thing, but I've certainly been asking certain council members to reconsider their decision. And I've asked the public, as you know, earlier today, to reach out to your council members and ask them to reconsider that decision. So anyhow, it's my input. Thank you.
I'm sure you know what I'm going to say, but I missed my chance.
Okay, so go ahead.
I, of course, just want to add support to that. And I know I've said it a lot and given different options on how to handle the situation we're in, which I don't believe were vetted, but fine. But I think it's a statement besides looking kind of like we're pedaling backward in time. It also kind of looks like we don't have a strategy for making our decisions about who we want to fund and who we don't. And I think that's a problem for the NCIP going forward and having some credibility with the people who have been in the past put a lot of time and energy into putting forward projects, to wait for those projects to come to fruition, and then to see that their projects would be usurped by a new group of projects without some level of discussion. So I just want to support that.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public comment and open it up for committee discussion.
We approve these projects. City council approve these projects. And unless they are projects that really don't make sense to do, then we probably won't be recommending that they get taken off. Because both parties that I mentioned actually have made the commitment to do these projects. which was one of the reasons why I wanted us to push through out of the 27 numbers, the number that they wanted. I hope we come back with public testimony that says we want these projects. And that's why we need the public hearings to have people come tell us that. So reach out to those people who submitted those projects. Let's hear them say, yes, we still want them. Yes, they're still valid projects. And have them take the 27.
Yeah, and as far as timing goes, it's pretty tough because a lot of my neighbors are out of town even now. And they're going to be coming back in, dribbling in January. I normally put out a questionnaire at least a month in advance, trying to get everybody's input. And by the way, the optics are going to look fantastic. I usually put out a poster that says, what are your ideas and what are your needs? Then I put out a poster and say, what are your priorities? Now I'm going to put out a poster that says, they want to take your money. Which ones do you not want? And it's literally going on the signboard. Because that's how I get people to engage. If every person in the public is going to drive by that sign that goes to that beach. So it does take time for us to get input back. And so I think we're going to need both of those meetings. So, maybe and then we're going to need all the way to that last night to get that input back.
So I also want to just say that the reason that we are doing this is because City Council feels that, or some of the council members feel like we need to be giving recommendations to them about which projects to prioritize. So if we were not doing this exercise, then City Council would be doing the exercise.
Yep. You got it.
So this is our opportunity to have some sort of a say in terms of, providing recommendations to City Council. Nobody wants to do this. None of us, but we are given this directive and we do want to have a say. And that's basically what this process is. So it's not ideal. It's like, if we had a different financial situation with the city, maybe this would not even be a task provided, but we are kind of where we are. So.
I already made my statement. I'll just reiterate it. I do have a big concern that if we're offering a set amount from the next fiscal year, as well as these projects to freeze, that they'll take us up on both. And I don't think that's right. So I would strongly encourage that when we do make this recommendation, we add language like or. Either, you pick one or the other. You cannot pick both. Or as our recommendation to City Council, they're going to do what they want to do. But I think as our role, we should be protecting as much as we can. We are trying to help the city, but we also have a responsibility to our neighborhoods too. And these projects were approved. And again, my concern is that since we're having to do that, I think it was our belief when Dennis came up with that recommendation that we would hope they would take that recommendation, but the direction is still coming back every week that we have to do this defunding, defreezing exercise. So I think in our recommendation, we do need to add language that it's one or the other, not both. We're not offering up both. If they want both, it needs to come back to us for further discussion. I know I'm jumping ahead, but.
Oh, no. And I think that's perfectly fine. We can make that recommendation.
And again, they're going to at least make our position clear.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Just remember, for the city to take money away from the NCIP, it takes 4 votes. And there's one council member that's very clear that they won't vote to take the money away next time.
I think also it would be good to make clear that we've been asked to prioritize projects. I think there will be 1 or 2 that can be cut, like the pickleball that isn't going to go anywhere. But in general, I would say that we can prioritize them, but also clearly put language that we don't recommend defunding. And if they do get defunded, it is really on the city council's back, not on our back. that we, we can prioritize them as they say, but we can choose to verbally not recommend cutting funded programs and putting them ahead of other programs that are now being voted in.
It was my intent when I suggested to city council that they have to match what we put up. And if we were getting a 15% cut like the departments did, the number would be about 1.6 million out of us, which we can do from the contingency and from some of the projects that are not feasible going forward. And I don't think we go further, but let's hear from the public how they feel about those projects. It could be that some of those old projects aren't worth doing, but I don't think there's that many of them. And I do think our recommendation also ought to include that they, as they did with the current year, use the contingencies. And in the 27 budget, they have 6.2 million of contingencies in there that are being added to the reserves. You got a 10 million shortfall and you got 6.2 that you're adding to reserves. Yeah.
One other thing I'd like to, sorry. I thought I talked loud enough. One other thing I'd like to see us put in is that if the council decides to take and freeze some of those projects rather than take money from next year, that as a committee, we say that those projects that they're freezing become the #1 priority next year. And those would be the ones that we would vote highest to fund again. So I'd like to see us at least say that, so they're very aware.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to bring this out. This is not a zero-sum game. Every single thing that we say is a low priority and that gets taken away is taking money from the next project that now won't get done. Not giving us the money back. It's gone forever. So yeah, it's on the list. It's not funded. It's not funded. So, keep that in mind when you talk about defunding. And I would put to you, we approved that pickleball after many, many hours of conversation because we believe this was a priority. And we did it after multiple years, multiple stages, very well thought out, important project. So NIP is working very hard to understand its priorities. And even if somebody else doesn't have the same opinion.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we do want to do the two meetings, and then also the 28th would be the voting night. And then on both of those meetings, it sounds like we would just open it up for whoever. I think that's nice because it's 2 opportunities for people to come in case, travel, whatever, they can't make one of them, they can maybe make the other. So just going through all of them for those 2 meetings so that we can have public comment, and then the voting would be on the 28th.
And that's acceptable. We just need a motion to be made for that, and then a second, and then we can have discussion on that further, and then moving forward with that.
So moved.
Sorry, just. Oh, that sounds nice, but could you please make the motion in all of its language just so that we're all in accordance with what you're saying? Thank you.
I move that we adopt the schedule that Reggie presented of using the 14th, 21st, and 28th, with the 14th and the 21st for discussion, public discussion of those projects, and the 28th as a low priority or low point voting cycle.
Second.
Thank you. And then any discussion from committee members?
Mine's more of a clarification. So we're doing like the first half neighborhoods on the 14th and the second half on the 21st, or do they attend both?
It's for all the projects would be reviewed for both meetings.
They can attend either or both.
Yes.
But, okay.
Yeah, they can attend either. Yes.
Because mine have already attended, but I'm.
Yes. Okay, so for roll call, Aguilita Oaks, I believe no longer on the meeting. Alta Mesa.
Aye.
Casanova Oak Knoll.
Aye.
Deer Flats, not on the meeting. Del Monte Beach,
Aye.
Del Monte Grove, Laguna Grande,
Aye.
Downtown,
Aye.
Fisherman's Flats,
Aye.
Glenwood,
Aye.
Monterey Vista,
Aye.
New Monterey,
Aye.
Old Town,
Aye.
Skyline,
Yes, please.
and Villa Del Monte.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, motion passes.
Great. So we can move on to committee member comments. We've had a lot of comments, but anyone wants to make more?
I wish.
Microphone.
Microphone.
All right. I wish we would have, in this meeting, had each neighborhood tell us what their priorities were. So at least at voting night, I'd like each neighborhood to come back and tell us what their number one priority is. That will help me.
Any other comments?
So that's a different idea than going by oldest first. Because if you go by oldest first, then you won't get the evaluation of what's more important.
Talking about voting next week. The new project.
Okay. Thanks, I'm talking about the January.
And then again, just to clarify, when we do the January voting, it's just on the 32 projects that were in the agenda. So that's it. It's not whatever we voted on the couple of weeks prior. Okay, any other?
It's up to neighborhood reps to let people know of those projects for those dates. City's not letting people know. Other than the multi-neighborhoods, who's gonna be doing multi-neighborhoods? Will you let multi-neighborhood projects know?
I'll reach out to the submitter for the multi-neighborhood projects.
I'll email my priorities to, I think they were set at the last meeting, but I'll email them to Reggie and Parker. So, if they want to send them around
Well, we'd have to make them public comment. We'll submit for them
last meeting. So
public comment.
That would work.
Time for one more comment. So I won't be here next week, but Amy probably will. But so in January, we still have to decide, are we going to try to do it by older first or by, in our case, we only have one of each. So it's pretty simple. Keep because I'm doing the older one first and then the new one, or try to evaluate of the two, which is better. I mean, it's something that some of us smaller neighborhoods need to think about. I mean, for direction, what's the better approach? Or should we try to all kind of stay on the same page and stick with the older first idea?
I think for January.
Yeah.
We're only, as council guidance and direction is, only reviewing prior/older projects. So nothing that's going to be voted on next week will be up for consideration in January. That's the council. So as it stands right now.
For things.
As it stands right now, unless it changes, but as it stands today, we're going to review in the agenda packet, right? So everyone can find it. So if you go to item, what is it, 4? Item 5 in the agenda packet, right? The attachment, it lists out the projects that are up for consideration. There's a table, right? And it goes through, and those tables are based, and just real quick, right? So based on how it's set up. So NIP 23, those are projects that were voted on in the 22-23 cycle, right? So then you'll see NCP 24, those are projects that were voted on in the 23-24 cycle. And then NCP 25, those were the most recent last year cycle projects. So, and that's how they're broken down. And the votes are how those votes fell that year. And the available budget is generally, in these cases, say what was approved, but there's been some minor, in some cases, staff time billed against the project. But generally, those are what the original budgets were. So yeah, in January, we'll be reviewing these, and there's 32 projects on this. Well, there was originally a total of 40, but some of those projects have either moved to in progress or have been closed out. or in the case of the contingency and ending balance, so items 39 and 40, those are gonna go away anyway. So that leaves 32 projects.
So we don't know which way it's going to go as far as the old versus new question.
I don't understand the old versus new.
Well, things that are already approved are inactive versus the ones we're are going to vote on next week, which are
They're
newer.
two separate things.
So-
So you're
No connection whatsoever.
None.
action, no connection whatsoever.
Sounded, because didn't somebody say that maybe they'll take
They
both?
said incorrectly. Yeah.
Okay.
There was a public comment that said you should consider both,
Yeah.
Gonna do it.
but the city council direction is not to consider both. It's not. So
I take from,
it's only these 32 that are on this list as of right now.
Yeah.
It's 32.
Is that clear?
Only the old.
Okay. Any other comments? So I did have a comment, and it may not be popular to say, but I think we do need to be mindful of not kind of repeating patterns. So in the past, we would vote for, 30 some projects that would kind of get added on. And I think we, as a committee, kind of looked at projects and thought, well, these are kind of small projects. They should be pretty quick, but those small projects do add up, and that also adds to the backlog. So I do think that's something to consider for each rep in terms of how you're going to be voting, not only for projects in your neighborhood, but projects in other neighborhoods and multi-neighborhood projects as well. So it is very tempting to have that, because I kind of have that thought of, well, this is not that much money, it'll be really quick for them to do, but I think that's what we have been doing. And that just has kind of resulted in us having such a big backlog, because those little projects don't get done for a number of different reasons. And it just kind of adds to the list. So as we're going into voting next week, just kind of thinking about that, that we're not kind of doing the same thing that we keep doing. And that's what I feel like is the number one criticism of our committee that I'm hearing from public comment. So I did want to just say that.
I just want to make a comment about small projects, and I'm going to pick on Jamie and Del Monte. Just as an example, right? So just as an example, Del Monte Beach had a project that was approved on the books to install a bike rack. Incredibly simple project. It turned out to be not simple at all, right? Because we couldn't agree on a location. Staff had identified a location. We sent that to Del Monte Beach rep. They were like, well, let me take it to the committee, the local neighborhood. They came back and said, we hate that location. Don't put it there. So we said to them, well, if we don't put it there, then we're not going to put it anywhere, right? So we conveyed that message, and they came back and said, well, then don't put it anywhere. So actually, we're taking it off the books, right? But so something that we think is simple actually turns out to not be simple. So, I'm trying to do my part and just convey clearly, right, to the committee members that, look, this is where we are. So either we're going to do it or we're not going to do it. I'm trying my best to not keep them on the books, to not kick, and just leave them there. So, but that's just a recent example of a project that should be simple, but we couldn't agree on a location to install a bike rack.
Any other comments?
Let's just get it done. You've heard me say it several times, I want shovel-ready projects that we know what they are, when they can hit the ground running. The fire station, police things that we need to do to that facility, thinking about what we have to do to the police and fire facility across the street. All those are things that are big projects that need to get done. The ADA, the library. We have more than 3 times projects on our list than we can afford. So the money's going to go fast. And I don't know that we have a lot of room for little projects. I think we need big projects that can happen.
And then in terms of doing the priorities, is that something that needs to be on the agenda?
I'm confused. What do you mean?
So
Sorry.
I had mentioned each neighborhood giving information about projects.
No, I think that's just part of committee member comment, right?
We can put it under public comment. If you send us an email, we can put it under public comment.
Oh, well, yes, if you send us, like, if Jamie was saying, right, she was gonna send us her
Priorities.
neighborhood priorities, that would go in public comment, which then would be available to the committee plus the public.
So that's what we should do.
Okay, so everyone should email each neighborhood rep should email Reggie, I guess, and then, or Parker, then Parker's like, it's me. And then we'll put it on, it'll be available on.
It'll be available in public comment.
Got it. All right, thank you. Any other comments? All right, so I'll go ahead and close committee comments. Our next meeting is December 17th, 2025, and meeting is adjourned at 8:20 p.m.